Chaucer's Books Talk with Mary Firestone. On behalf of our founder and owner, Mary Curley, where we're going to celebrate our 48th year this year, we thank you for coming. Copies of Trusting the Dawn are behind the counter with Francis, Alec, Gretchen, and Dee helping you. So if you'd like to purchase a book, please do so before you get it signed. There is a sign-up sheet for future events. If you'd like to come, please feel free to sign up. This event, as you can see, is being recorded for our YouTube channel, and for those who missed it, it will be available online. Last couple things, the restrooms are in the back right through there, through the computer aisle, and please silence your cell phones to give our author your complete undivided attention. Tonight we welcome local author Mary Firestone and her book, Trusting the Dawn, How to Choose Freedom and Joy After Trauma. It's a very inspiring book. I've looked through it and I can't wait to hear her talk. A little bit about Mary is she's a graduate of Princeton University and has an MA in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University. Go Waves. Her own transformative epiphanies led her, along with their sister Lucy, to found their company Firestone Sisters in 2012. That's firestonesisters.com. Please visit their website. The aim of that company is to provide others with healing and growth opportunities. Mary's also a fine writer. She's been featured in Goop, Well and Good, and Forbes. Welcome to Chaucer's, Mary Firestone.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Yay! I know you're going to talk about your book in a little bit, but I'm just curious why you decided to actually write the book.
It's a good question. Having my background in clinical psych and healing, I knew that what I was experiencing was experiencing PTSD, and I also, through my healing journey, was experiencing growth and opportunity and connection in a way that I'm not sure I would have if I hadn't have gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to write the book as a way to offer hope to other trauma survivors, to know that they are not alone and that there is the possibility of greater, love and connection and appreciation for life once going through healing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my offering and a cathartic journey for myself too.
I'm sure it was. Before we begin and you talk about your book, you have a master's degree in clinical psych, and you got it before. What interested you in the field to dedicate your life to psychology?
I think a word that keeps coming up a lot for me in my personal life and in interviews and stuff is this idea of being curious. And I've always been incredibly curious about what made me tick, what makes everyone around me tick, life in general, spirituality, the human brain, like all of it. So that's what led me to psychology. And also I want to say too, probably as a way to understand some childhood abuse in my own life, to try
Mm-hmm.
to heal that in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Lucy, my sister Lucy, and I started our company because I love psychology and I have great respect for it. And I also had begun experiencing other forms of energy healing and alternative practices that drove me further, and I wanted to include those in what we were offering. So our retreats run the gamut from, we have traditional therapists, and we work with flower essences and aromatherapy, and
Wow.
So I really wanted to include all of that, and I did in the book, and we do on our retreats, and yeah.
That's great. Again, that's firestonesisters.com. I'm going to have Mary talk a little bit about her book, and then I'll ask her one or two questions. And if you feel like you want to participate, please chime in with your own questions. So go ahead and take it away, Mary.
Thanks, Michael. And thank you so much for having me and for what Chaucer's is and does, igniting a passion for reading and keeping it alive in such a personal way. So thank you. And supporting local authors too. So after the mudslide, people kept asking if we were going to move because we hadn't lived here very long when it happened. And my answer then and now is no way. The way that this community of Santa Barbara, my cousin Andrew, rallied around us and supported me and my family was miraculous, especially when many of us were going through our own traumas in the community. So I knew then, and I know now, that Santa Barbara and this community was home. So thank you. And again, I wrote this book as an offering, as a way for other trauma survivors to find their own healing. I include all different kinds of healing modalities in the book, ranging from the traditional to shamanism to ketamine therapy, meditation, and everything in between. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing, so I wanted people to be able to find as many avenues in as possible. I also realized that outside of this community, a mudslide is a fairly specific trauma, so I interviewed all different kinds of trauma survivors so that others might find themselves and their own stories in the book. And yeah, please feel free to purchase them. I'll sign them. They make great gifts. And I'm just going to do a short reading, and then let's get back to celebrating life.
All right.
Okay. It was more than 5 hours before I was rescued from my bathroom countertop, where I huddled, wet and pregnant, shaking from cold and fear, trapped by millions of gallons of mud. I didn't know how many hours I'd endure in this soggy, frigid tomb. I did know they seemed both interminable and fleeting. For much of that time, I thought my husband and 4-year-old son had been swept away in a river of mud and debris, and that my own death was imminent. In mere moments, the tidal wave of mud had become too high and toxic for me to stand in, so I crawled up on the countertop. Barefoot, in thin cotton floral pajamas, I looked out my bathroom window at my world, destroyed. I thought my life was over. There had been a deafening roar as boulders the size of tanks tumbled in a torrential river of mud down the mountain above my home. On my left, I had watched this river crumple a neighbor's house and hurtle it down the hill away from me. On my right, the majority of my house had twisted backward and washed away at 20 miles per hour. Not only was my living room gone, but my panic surpassed anything I'd ever known when I realized the window looking back at me was that of my 4-year-old son Ever's bedroom, and I thought he was in it. Can you imagine that the worst thing that has ever happened to you might turn out to be a gift in disguise? Do you know that trauma, in whatever form it slayed you, childhood abuse, betrayal, divorce, the loss of a child, a diagnosis of terminal illness, a natural disaster, could be your initiation into a fuller, more illuminated and joyful life? I recognize that in the wake of trauma, during and sometimes even after healing, we can feel frustrated or even angry about considering the point of view that what we have suffered can lead anywhere good. It's okay if you don't feel that way yet. I've been there and I empathize. Just know, if I've been there and can get here, so can you. It takes time, and it also takes healing. The reality that the destruction of my world as I knew it would be a triumphant epiphany, an invitation to live more rapturously and dynamically, was a seed that would not be revealed for some time. I wrote this book to share how I transformed the darkness into light in order to encourage and ignite readers to break free from the heavy residue trauma can leave behind. For me, perhaps the biggest gift of trauma is recognizing the impermanence of this life and therefore valuing it So often we put off doing things we love, having important conversations, or spending time on what matters most to us. We punt our dreams to next year, or when I have more money, or when I have a partner. Emerging from our darkest moments into the light teaches us that now is the only guarantee. It motivates and empowers us to seize the moment and live and love like we mean
I'm sure it's very cathartic, but I also have to ask you, how difficult was it the process of writing this book, and did certain points of the traumatic experience come back to you as you were writing this book?
Oh yeah. And that's something else that I want to make really clear, is that it wasn't just poof and now everything's great and healed, checked, and I'm done. No, I think healing is an ongoing journey, and you know, there's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who's a psychologist, talks about the 7 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like with healing too, it's not linear. There's times even now when I slide backwards and it feels hard and overwhelming, or triggering. Something might be triggering. And, you know, it's like this idea to keep moving forward and keep reframing and keep asking the question, why did this happen for me, instead of why did this happen to me?
Interesting. And it was cathartic, and if you can describe how you felt when you completed the project.
It feels like it's still going.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like there have been so many, and I'm finished now, I turned it in, and now I'm finished, and and now I'm here, and I'm talking to all of you, but it's ongoing, and I think there's relief, I love getting to connect with people in a real way. I think that to me has been such a gift, and realizing that, you know, if we live long enough, we'll all be traumatized in some way, so there's a connection there, and, you know, hopefully I can spread a little light and love and hope, and this book can.
Well, I think you started with the people in front of you. I'm very grateful. But I think you'll be able to pass that on through your book, so thank you for writing it.
No question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can open it, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So when trauma takes place, there's 2 things that happen. At some point you have to address it. And at some point you have to kind of like close that door, close that chapter. How do you know when it's appropriate to address it, you know, confront it, not ignore it, but then at some point I think you probably need to move past it as well.
Yeah, thank you, Cousin Andrew. So yeah, when trauma happens, there are physical things that take place in the body, and we can remain actually in the fight or flight response that is designed. Our bodies are ingenious. They're designed to get us away from the lion, so our heart rate speeds up, our digestion shuts down. We're designed to get away from the trauma. The issue is when that gets stuck in the on position. And, you know, as a culture, I think I'm really happy that we're having these conversations more, because I don't think we talk about it enough. So, you know, if there's not proper healing, people can get stuck in that PTSD fight or flight response. So that would be a time to address it as soon thereafter the trauma as possible. And then also, I think paying attention more to our bodies and the signals that they're telling us that's a way to know, okay, I had a panic attack. And that was like a year and change after I'd done some healing, and that was, okay, there's more to be done here. So again, I think we go through these like plateaus and it's better, and then something might come up again, and then there's an opportunity to clear that. And even with this trauma, in doing some of my healing, I wound up clearing, you know, an incident of abuse from when I was 7 that I thought I was all done with. But then it was like, great, and now I did another layer of clearing around that. So I guess it's like, I know I'd love to be just to say it's like, and then we're all done. But, you know, I will say that the more healing I've done and I see other people do, I feel a deeper connection to other people, to the beauty of life and my children, and so there's that.
I'm going to ask, when was the flood, the first flood?
January 2018.
Was it once a year for us as well, in school?
How soon after did you have your child? That
So-
must have been an incredible boost of
Yeah.
positive.
It definitely. So I was about 4.5 months pregnant with my daughter India, who actually, her full name is India Orion, because the man who rescued us, his name was Orion. And he's actually met her, and he's a wonderful, heroic person. So yeah, we had lost our house, and then we moved. I mean, as many of you know, there was like nowhere to live because so many people were displaced. So after we stayed at Cousin Andrew's for too long, we, bounced around. We moved maybe like, I don't know, 8 times in a couple months. And I just kept praying and hoping that we would be settled before India was born. And we actually wound up moving into our house May 1st, and she came May 25th. And yeah, as anyone that has a child knows, that it definitely propels you forward into life rather than looking backwards. And knowing I was having her also really encouraged me to get on with my healing, because I wanted to pass as little of my own trauma to her as possible. And then it was about like a year later that I had my first panic attack. So it's kind of interesting. It's like once everything, I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then, so. But she is a great, bright, mellow. I got really lucky. I know everyone probably thinks I get lucky with her child. She's like a delight. So.
Are there any other questions? Well, Mary, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.